We have a quorum. And we're going to start with the minutes. So we have the minutes from June 26th. Does anyone have any comments on those minutes?
Yes, I said I would review them, and I've gone through the tape, and I feel very strongly that they don't reflect anything that was said. In fact, they're one of our weakest sets of minutes. So I have written instead 3 paragraphs. Shall I read them, and I can send this?
No, send them out to everyone, and everyone will review them, and then we'll do it at the next meeting. All right, how about the August 21st minutes?
I would, yes. I'd like it, the minutes to reflect that I think everyone here, as well as the public, wanted to see that timeline clearly articulated as just a sequence
Of events.
not a definite, because I think we all agreed upon that, and I think it'd be good if that was more strongly stated.
Okay.
I was, well,
Yeah, I was just going to say, and similarly, and I'm happy to submit this, I think just when the committee was dissolved, I think that wording just needs to be tightened up a little bit to accurately reflect.
and I think we can all, since there is a record of a vote.
Sorry, we're not keeping
dissolved. I went back and read the email from Jerry Sliver, we were not dissolved.
We were put on.
We were suspended.
Yes.
We were suspended, yeah.
Not dissolved, you're
But
right.
it also reflects what was said in the meeting, not the record. Not this
However-
record, it reflects what we said.
Wendy,
It
Correct,
didn't-
incorrect.
Right.
Wendy is.
That's the minutes, so we don't need to be completely accurate as to what actually happened.
I think Wendy is correct, that rather than cause and effect, it should reflect a sequence. But I have an added note here. So after what you write, I suggest this. Members Hoffman and Schmidt stated that the original comprehensive plan was put on hold, or we can say suspended, the morning after a unanimous vote by CPAC recommended that the town board refrain from changing zoning code until the plan was completed. That is a sequential fact as much as anyone leaving or retiring, and it is a vote that is registered in our record.
Correct, it is in our record. However, that is not the catalyst for the committee being suspended.
No, that's an
It's the
objective
fact that-
opinion.
No, because if Edward Hinton and Michael Bebon hadn't resigned from the task force, there would have been no reason to not continue. You know, we would have kept going. But because the task force lost its committee members, there was no one to keep the process moving forward.
This is your opinion. From where we sat, there was a different potential cause and effect. There was a vote that was very disliked, and we were stopped. So the other
in all fairness, that's
has to be
also-
registered.
But that's also.
Could I offer an idea that might, could I offer a suggestion?
Can we listen to?
Could I offer a quick suggestion that may resolve the whole thing?
Good.
If you want to be perfectly accurate, we had Amber Brock Williams, who's the current council person, and she came up to the podium. And she was a member of the town board then, and she offered actually some of these facts. Albert Dixon was in the audience, he was sitting right over here. She turned to him and he supported what she said publicly here at the meeting. So technically what that would be on the record as what she said here.
Correct.
That still raises a question of cause and effect, and we want it registered because this was very consequential, and in fact, there is a difference there are different potential political sequences that went on. So we'd like to enter into the record that that same evening, a unanimous vote recommended that the town refrain from zoning changes. But just put it in the record, not to suggest an alternate history, but to lay out things that happened that could have consequences.
All right, well, then you send us your written recommendations,
Yeah.
and we'll look at them with the rest of it, and we'll look at the
And I think
transcript.
it's also to say it would be best to go to the transcript and actually.
I was just gonna say.
Word for word, and then like, as I said, to be accurate, you should mention that Amber, you have her present, I think.
We will
in
have to
audience, but yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course, if you want to, you can add that too. We could go
We'll
through the
include
whole.
it because then the record will be
Right.
complete.
Thank you.
Right.
And it should also, we also decide, I see that the timeline of the planning process has been put under, I believe it's the second or third discussion document, so that it should reflect the changes if they are accepted.
Okay, what?
Could you say that again?
The timeline is not just something that was put up on a,
Are you referring to something in this? What part of the minutes are
I'm
you?
talking about the time, what is it called?
I think what
The full title is, it's
the
called the
document you shared with us.
2020-2023
Sequencing.
Comprehensive Plan
Okay.
Yeah, I emailed that out.
Updating Timeline dated 8/21/2023. I'm referring to that discussion document. I'm just trying.
What about it? It was sent out. It is. I don't understand what you're asking about.
I'm saying that if we do correct and add the vote into that night, it should also go into the same copy of
No,
that.
I'm not changing the timeline because you want to change the minutes.
But you've
Because the
changed-
timeline is the document that was submitted.
By who?
And to change it now posthumously.
But it
doesn't make sense.
reflects a history
No,
that is
no.
not proven.
No.
Yes, it does.
That's not a complete history anyway.
It's
because
not.
you don't have any other decisions or recommendations to make.
But it
But it does,
things,
yeah.
but it's not
It's not
supported.
accurate.
I just want to read
The
it.
document is
It's
not accurate.
Either. You could say, is it complete? No, it's not.
But it is not
complete, but it's not
accurate.
complete in almost
Then I
every
think we need to
category.
say
It
that.
also doesn't speculate one way or the other, so it's neutral.
You know what I would
Selection
do?
and what
I
we
would
reflected
take
in
out
today's
maybe
minutes.
the
That's how it
original
goes.
note. I would take out your note.
Today's minutes. Well, then,
The original
let's-
that's how you should plan was put on hold.
Why? Because it was. It was put on hold. That was a fact. It's a neutral fact. I didn't speculate why.
After the resignation.
All right, so.
It was.
Okay, ladies, excuse me, when something is said at a meeting auditorially, even if it has errors in it, it has to be shown as it was. Then if anyone at
I
that meeting
understand.
objected, which I don't remember, we have to go back and watch, but if you did at the meeting object to it, then that can go in and anything you say can go in. But you can't actually change the document as it was submitted because
I
it could be submitted
understand.
with error. And that is accurate at the moment that it was submitted.
Correct.
But then you could have your comments put in there saying,
I
you know, Lily
understand.
Hoffman at X point objected to something that was in.
No, I think members objected. Members who were involved in the process, that's all. I understand. I've
you
worked
said that-
under,
if
I've
you
worked
said that
under
on-
Robert's
yes.
Rules of Orders for 30 years of my career. I understand what
I
you're
think we should
saying.
go back and listen to it just a bit. 'cause
Yes, I
for
suggest you should
accuracy.
listen to all the minutes, as a matter of fact.
Right, but can I also just say that when we're each trying to speak, that we just let each other have natural turn taking. So I was actually still saying my sentence and you're cutting me off. So I would really appreciate just a little bit more, normal normal kind of turn taking. Thank you.
Okay, so submit your changes in writing so everyone can review them, and we'll look at them again next time. All right, item number 3, review of the comprehensive plan virtual public workshop. So I wanted to start by thanking everybody who attended. We had a good turnout, there were about 85 people. We broke into 6 groups, I believe it was. And I feel like they were very productive discussions, but I wanted to hear what everybody thought about it, because I think pretty much everybody who's here attended. I don't know if you were able to attend.
People
but-
missing, but
There were a few people, but
you got it.
we had some good attendance. So I was just wondering if anybody had feedback from it they wanted to share.
I had many community members contact me after that with questions and concerns. I asked you about some things, and I hope George got a hold of you about that document. It wouldn't open.
Oh, okay, I'll
And so
just send it to you.
He wanted me to print it out for him.
It's huge.
It's huge. I think we had to do this electronically somebody, but I just didn't know how to do it from.
Okay, no, we didn't get it. So I'll try to resend it to you in a different way.
That would be good, but there's other people too. Some people thought it was very well done, very well presented. They liked the format and everything about that. Other people were concerned that it was really not very substantive. There was just a lot of generalizations and comments made that we all kind of agree on already. And like, this is something, a lot of the information was presented was something we were talking about from public meetings a year ago or more. And why aren't we doing something more specific and trying to deal with the issues we really have? And one person mentioned that in looking at the draft copies that we have for each chapter, at the end, we have our action items. Why aren't we using our time to rank order those things? Let the community look at those and say, okay, this really is the same thing as that one, so let's put those together, and whatever, this should be first, no, this is the last, whatever. Let the community have some say in that. There was some concern about that if we leave that up to the consultants to kind of cobble together whatever, they may not have the right or this same taste of what Shelter Island is to know what our priorities might be. And maybe they do, I don't know, but they were concerned that that might be something that might get lost in the process. So that rank order of those action items was a thing that 3 people mentioned to me.
Can I let Noah speak to that, and then, or is yours the same vein?
Well, it might help, because a lot of times people don't understand that it was between a comprehensive plan and an action plan. You get your comprehensive plan, which can be rather vague and generalist, and then you have to articulate a very clearly sequenced action plan.
Right.
That's what
Here,
Yeah, so-
Noah, do you want to explain?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the reason why we kind of orchestrated the meeting as we did was really just, it's not easy to get input from 90 people in a public meeting in order to rank priorities and, come away with something that is really a difficult thing to do. We've tried a lot of different meeting types. We're very experienced in public outreach. And this is just one method that really works to hear from as many people as we can in a short period of time. That was really the main impulse of breaking out into small group discussions. In a 2-hour meeting, it would be virtually impossible to hear from everybody. If everyone had a couple of minutes to talk, it would last hours. And we were able to kind of basically, divide people into smaller groups and kind of also have the opportunity for people to talk to other neighbors. Sometimes people, generally speaking, have an opinion, but they don't have the chance to hear about how others, their neighbors might feel. And those conversations to us are very productive. You can get people to kind of talk amongst themselves and really listen in to understand the complexity of certain issues. And with regard to the question about getting into specificity, we would have liked to have gotten into specificity on a lot of items, but again, it's very difficult to do that given the time constraints of being respectful of everyone's time. We needed to kind of balance hearing from people and also speaking. So we tried to provide a taste of the really important things that were in the plan, and also the land use and zoning recommendations, which we heard was kind of an important theme when we presented to the town board. As you will see, or as you saw from the meeting, we're not recommending major land use and zoning recommendations. We really presented a lot of the main themes. There are a lot of specific things that we will get into in the report. And we also told people that we are planning on releasing that report, probably in kind of sequenced, maybe chapters 1, 2, 3 in the next couple of days, and then 4, 5, 6, and so on. We want to get that out as soon as possible so that people have a chance to review it in advance of our in-person workshop. So it's not as if the process is done. This is a good way to prime everyone's thinking into what we're doing. We're going to release the plan, which has all of that specificity. And so there really is still opportunity to comment. We did hear some ideas that has influenced our thinking. And so that's why we've kind of reserved a little bit of time to make some changes before we submit the plan. We needed to hear from people first so we could provide a document, and then there's kind of a back and forth process. So we put a lot of thought into it. I understand that there's concern. It's very hard to make everyone happy in this process. We're doing the best we can to hear from as many people in as efficient way as possible. So that was really the impulse behind the way we orchestrated the meeting.
Lily?
I just want to say that in my group, Meg was the leader, and she was most excellent in reporting just about everything that everybody said back at the report time. But several people did tell me that they felt that their comments were rolled over and not reported back. and I won't repeat the names of the group leaders. So I think the comment that this varied, the experience varied in terms of feeling that your comments were made clear to the group as a whole.
I think that's a legitimate concern, and I think it's also very difficult to moderate a group and characterize it exactly as it happens. It's important to recognize that people want their ideas to be heard, and I know in my group there were some conflicting opinions on different things, and I imagine the person who had one view might feel that they weren't heard, whereas the person on the other side might feel that they weren't heard. It's difficult, really, to capture issues, particularly when there isn't a consensus. But we did have a meeting beforehand to talk about kind of how to moderate these meetings, and it's important to talk about where there was consensus and perhaps where there wasn't consensus, where there was a discussion. In my group, we talked about issues of affordable housing, and some people felt a certain way and some people felt a different way. And I tried to characterize it as such, but it's difficult. It's not easy to characterize it exactly the way that people want. So we do have notes of what was said, and we will review those notes and try to consolidate it as much as possible. But what we will try to do in the plan is get a sense for where there seem to be more, ideas where there seem to be more support. If there are ideas where there's conflict in the community, we'll try to represent it as such, and maybe those are areas that need to be addressed further. So I do think it was productive to kind of help us understand which issues were, where there was conflict and which issues where there may have been more consensus.
And I'll just, sorry, were you going to say something? No. I'll echo and agree with the comments that have been made. I think where people are starting to get to is there have been a good amount of opportunities for people to participate. I know there's concern that there are members of the community that may not be heard, and I think we're certainly trying to do that. I think what I heard was there's sort of like this question now of feelings versus facts, and what is it that the analysis is driving from a decision-making perspective, because that takes some of the feeling out of it, right? I mean, everybody's going to have their personal opinion, and we all are agreeing to disagree on certain things, and I think that's actually healthy. That's good dialogue. But what I think several members of the public approached me on is, okay, so what is different now between where we were in '94, where we were in 2008, and where we are now? And how does that information help us prioritize actions that need, so there's things I think that, we keep hearing about water. It came up in the quick survey, like what is the information telling us that we need to do, right? And what is the greatest part of the community that it impacts, and what do we need to do in order to do other things? And I think that's just some of the feedback that I'm continuing to get. I think people are certainly appreciative. I think there are many more people paying attention now, certainly. So that, might be kind of a good segue into what we're going to do on the 23rd that starts to bring a lot of these things together in a succinct way that's manageable and digestible for the community.
Some of those things that you mentioned were that popped up in our breakout group.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where people are now saying, okay, I'm telling you what I think and what I feel, but what is it that actually is kind of broadly needed? And what information are we using to help us make those decisions?
Not to. Just want to respond. I'm not trying to be overly defensive, but I think we did try to give an idea of some of the key findings. A lot of things have changed since 1994. I mean, it's 30 years later, so much has changed on the island with regard to housing, the environment, the water quality. There's so many changes. I think we did try to present that. I also wanted to mention that data is an important part of our plan, and we've gotten as much data as we can. There's also interviews, stakeholder interviews, in the 2020 to 2021, a lot of surveys were done. There was a whole SWOT sheet analysis that was done that really pointed out issues, opportunities, and threats. The survey talked about priorities for the island. There are some things that you can get with data. There are other things that just, are interview based and talking with key stakeholders, department heads, public meetings.
Yeah. I think it's a matter of just summarizing it now in a way that's digestible and,
Well, that's what the
and more
plan- that's what the
easily
plan is.
understood.
That's what the
I think
plan.
people are
that's what the-
still struggling.
That's what the plan will be. Hopefully, it will be a readable document. And, it will kind of outline these issues, the key findings that lead to the recommendations. That's our real goal.
Yeah.
Our goal is to make it a.
Kind of
a
the
readable
executive
document.
summary, if you will.
So Wendy?
I just wanted to add, my group was first very collaborative, interesting mix of some new people, some people who've been here forever. They seem to be relatively well educated, but there were people who said like, I don't know how zoning works, or I don't know how, this works. So there was clearly a need for more information. I will say they really liked those interactive surveys. It's always very fascinating to see. And I think they showed that there's a diversity of focus among the groups. So generally, I think water, housing, and services for young and old, and poor, those kind of things came out, at least in our group discussion. But it went very well, I think, and our facilitator did a good job.
Well, as I pointed out, I think the interactive is successful, but the part of it is what you ask them to interact about. And as I pointed out in my group, you talk about commercial B1 and all this stuff about, which is zoning issues. And then what is the interactive question? It asks, are you in favor of design guidelines for commercial districts? This is not the point. Are you in favor of changing non-conforming into commercial or something? But to skip from the heart of the question, which is a land use question, to a design guidelines question, was in my book not very kosher.
I think the recommendation was actually not to change zoning at that point. There was a recommendation to add,
You're right.
design guidelines
But-
on the zoning.
But what came beforehand pointed at potentially very substantial changes that affect people in all parts of this island, because almost all commercial areas are non-conforming and grandfathered in. So I thought the important question was to really go
change to
what's
that.
on people's minds.
I think there's
People
a
in the
misconception
Heights-
of
Let me
what's
say,
being
people in the
proposed.
Heights are very concerned.
There's no proposal to change
There's no
that.
proposal to change zoning.
Just-
Let Noah
just one-
explain.
Yeah, just want to be very clear. It's very, very minimal. We're not proposing to change zoning, make properties that are non-conforming, conforming, that aren't in the business district and so on. What we see as an issue is the fact that the zoning doesn't provide guidance for creating, an environment that is what you have right now. So, for example, in the Heights, which is zoned B, there are setbacks that don't really apply to the existing buildings that are there. And there's no guidance for the types of materials that you should use, the types of signage, providing sidewalks, all these things that I think people cherish in the Heights. There's nothing in the code that mandates that someone would have to provide for that. And so we're not saying that promoting development in any way, but should it occur, you would want it to be done in a way that's respective of the historic fabric that's there. And that is kind of applicable for a lot of the districts to have some kind of design guidance to give the planning board or whoever is reviewing some agency to say, this is what we want, and this is what we don't want. It also helps developers just to have an understanding of what the town wants, so they don't come in with something that is completely out of scale and character and so on, that might meet the zoning requirements, but isn't compatible with those various commercial districts. So that's really what we're talking about. We're not talking about changing the zoning in other areas. And, we understand that, we want to respect what's there, really. But we want to make sure that things that are done in the future are done in a way that is respectful of the existing fabric.
Well, I think nothing wrong with design guidelines, but I think the elephant in the room is the question of whether there will be any attempt to change non-conforming uses into something that fits.
You kind of just
No,
said
there
it.
isn't.
There is none.
I'm just saying there's not.
It's like
Great to hear it.
said it.
Wonderful to hear.
Wish you would stop bringing it as if it's truth. It's going to be
Yeah,
changed.
it's definitely not helpful to I think it just sounds a little bit like there is some confusion, and if that's the case, it's more important to ask and we can clarify it. But I don't want things to get out into the public that aren't true, because I think that will create more issues. We're really not trying to do what I think it is that you're saying that we're doing. So I just want to make that clear, and if there are questions about that, we should address it, but I don't want to spread misinformation.
Noah, I want to just bring up the idea that John had about ranking the different action items. What we had discussed briefly was kind of describing them according to complexity of execution, because a lot of these things are very important, but they're important with different levels of complexity to actually getting them done. So we kind of talked about creating a chart that kind of explained what the action item was, who the interested parties are, who would be in charge of it, and then how hard it is to accomplish. Like, what is the complexity of the task? That way you have kind of everything ranked according to complexity and topic and involved parties, so that then you can kind of decide down the line what you have the funds and the willpower to tackle, because a lot of it comes into budgeting.
Correct.
So when it comes to bigger
Yeah, you have
things,
to have the cost in there.
right?
Even do like they do for restaurants, they have $1 sign, $2 sign,
That's-
just put that behind it.
Exactly.
Then we have an idea.
Right, so that's similar to what we described. Noah, did I accurately represent that?
Yeah, I just think it's a little bit more helpful. The prioritization, it's, it really depends on the decision makers and other agencies on what they want to prioritize. It's not our role. I think they're all priorities. They're all important. And some are easier to achieve. Others are harder to achieve, but are worthwhile. And, those are hard decisions that need to be made. So it's just important to put that information. So, basically the kind of the star system would be, one star might be kind of low hanging fruit. It's a regulatory change. It doesn't require money. 2 stars might be regulatory change, but a small amount of money. 3 stars might be something that is a little bit more cost involved. 4 stars would be cost plus coordination with multiple agencies and regulatory hurdles and so on. And then 5 stars is a mega project, that sort of thing, just to kind of characterize the types of projects that we're talking about.
So who would be doing that?
The consultants would.
We
Really?
would do that. Yeah.
Okay.
And, we could weigh in on if there's something that we know about the project that would make it more or less complicated, but based on their understanding,
The budget of the town.
Correct.
So.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll take a first pass at it. We'll need you to chime in to make sure that we have it right. But, based on our understanding of these various projects, I think we'll have a sense.
Is that something that would be ready for the 23rd?
Yeah.
I sort of keep coming into what the plan is there.
Question.
Yeah, I think that'll probably be the last thing that we will, because we're going to release these as soon as they're done, essentially. And so I just want to make sure that we get the chapters done first. That list, I suspect, we may change certain items based on what we hear at the public meeting, but we can certainly shoot to do that. It just probably will be the last thing that we upload before before the public meeting. We're going to focus on getting the chapters done first.
Okay, and just so I understand, the chapters, you had mentioned you're now going to be releasing them in groupings. Is that?
Yeah,
Just
that
so that
that was suggested by the town board rather than wait and upload them all at the same time.
Okay.
We could maybe give if we finish the introduction and demographics and land use and zoning and housing, that we can do those first. I'm just giving you an example.
Okay.
And then we'll move on to natural environment and infrastructure and so on. So we'll do them as quickly as we can to give people as much time as possible. And the chapters, we'll put in notes on things that might change. For example, There's going to be a lot of like placeholders for photographs that we'll want to put in. And we'll make that clear. Hopefully, that won't be a hang up for people. It's still going to be a work in progress, but it's going to be much closer. And I think you'll get an idea of where the document is going.
Wendy?
Just some action plans also not only have kind of costs, but if it's a 10-year plan, you sequence it, so year 1 to 2, easy stuff or critical stuff.
Right.
And then you kind of space it out that way so people can see, yes, things will get done, maybe not the first year, but that's another coordinate, I guess you could include.
Timing.
Noah, another question for you. How will we CPAC members will we have a chance to review the chapters, which we have not seen? It doesn't seem possible if we have another meeting in a month. So we will be relegated to the public and we can write comments, I guess, or is there another way in which we can register comments about the chapter, since we've been so involved with the process since the very beginning?
September
No,
25th.
I can answer this one. So what we're going to be doing is you'll have all the chapters as they come out. You'll all be getting copies of them. Then I'm just going to skip down to number 4 on the agenda, roles, responsibilities, and expectations for the September 23rd open house. So we were really hoping that as many people as could attend that open house to help man tables and talk to the public. That would be great for whatever time you could give, so that you can also speak to the public and get public input to like add to your comments for the chapters. And then when we meet on the 25th, that's when I'm hoping to go over the chapters and the comments and the recommendations made by this committee. And then from there, we'll pass those on to the consultants. So that way you have an opportunity to look at all the chapters yourself. Also then engage with the public at the open house, because we'd love people to man tables and engage with the public. And then meet back together on the 25th to discuss it all as a group.
And you expect that we're going to be able to handle discussion of all those chapters on one meeting?
No, but that'll be the first opportunity.
The first opportunity. So it will be together with public comments. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
I would say at that meeting, it would be better to talk about substantive things. If there are editorial, suggestions, we can handle all of those offline, but just to things that might require discussion.
Right, more like the action items that people have questions about. That's what I was thinking for the 25th meeting, discussing things that people don't understand or don't agree with. That was kind of the 25th meeting. Anything editorial or, you missed a comma or let's change the words. That's yeah.
The 25th, is that maybe Yom Kippur? I don't know, just to
Oh, is that the day?
Huge.
If these chapters are given to us ahead of time, though, since we do have the forum among ourselves in our folder, can we add comments to them as we've been doing with the chapters before we gave them to the consultant? So that even before that meeting, if we have the time to look at them, you could then see, well, here's some of the CPAC members' responses to these.
Yeah.
Would that be helpful, or is that just too difficult to
It'll
schedule?
depend on the format that Noah can give them to us in.
Okay.
It'll depend on
we
what
may be
program.
able to do something. I mean, we might be able to have a version that's downloadable online for the public and a version for the CPAC where you can make comments in there that everyone can see. That might be possible, because I know when I upload comments to PDFs to Dropbox, you can comment directly in the PDF. And we can give access privileges just for CPAC members to make comments. I'm just kind of spitballing this. So, and we can kind of send it to you, and maybe that wouldn't be a public document. So we just make sure that we can kind of have that just be for the CPAC. We could go over it all together as a group, and but maybe just to have, if that is what you're asking for, we might be able to accommodate it.
Yes, that's what they're looking for.
The 25th is Yom. The 25th.
It is Yom Kippur?
That's the end of it, though. It ends at sundown.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at the sunset. Yeah, the 25th. Let's just see. 6:42, so we could meet at 7.
And then we do also have another meeting scheduled for October 13th, I believe, which is a Friday, that we could do another follow-up with. But
I mean,
I think if,
I can do 20.
Well, we'll send out an invite and whoever RSVPs and lets us know if we can have a quorum, that'll be great. Reschedule if we don't have a quorum.
All right. I'm happy to man the table.
Yeah, I think most of us are.
yeah, it would be
Okay,
great if people could come and participate in the open house for whatever time you can give. Like Wendy, I don't expect you to be there all day, standing and sitting and.
But I can be there.
But you can, yeah, whatever works.
What is the time, by the way, for the whole, is it,
We haven't set the times,
Okay.
but it won't start until after 10:30 sometimes,
Okay.
maybe 11 o'clock, because there's work classes in the morning, there's exercise, so.
to about 3 o'clock.
3 or 4.
3 or 4.
Yeah, it was a long day on Saturday.
Can we email? Maybe that they should email us, just like when, if they have like a several hour span where you
Yeah.
can donate.
Yeah, you can kind of a.
Yeah, we'll make a whole schedule,
Yeah,
people
this way.
Sign up, advice maybe.
This way, if someone has to leave early, but another CPAC member can do it.
Yeah,
A question for Noah, do you plan to have like a chapter and have a table with someone just responding to that chapter?
Yes. Pretty much,
We
right?
plan to have workstations. And so basically we would have printed boards with the action items, printed out. And what we like to do is give everyone kind of green stickers and red stickers. And so people can go around and put stickers on the things that they feel are most important. And maybe the ideas that they don't like. And also if they put a red sticker on something, it's important, or either way, it's important that they write why. And it's just a way to help us understand in a general sense which areas people feel most strongly about, and maybe which areas are where maybe there's some differing opinions in the community or ideas that are not supported, because we want to make sure we get it right. So
I think also, sorry.
yeah, and so after that we would report back. So at each of the stations, we'll report back what we kind of heard in the discussions that we had to the wider group, and then we would give people, if people still have something that they would like to say, we could open up for kind of a more of a kind of a town hall style conversation at that point.
John,
I was just wondering if maybe, because I don't know every single chapter by heart, obviously, but maybe if we were focused on one chapter each, if we were on at tables, or we had a couple people per table, whatever, we're gonna do this. If we have a focused group at that table, it'd be much better. I brief myself on those points prior to the meeting as opposed to having someone hit me with
yeah.
questions.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. When I send out the schedule, you can sign up for a chapter. We'll do that,
Okay.
yeah.
They'll probably be grouped, just for space, but anyways, we'll figure, we haven't kind of gotten to that point yet, but we'll coordinate it.
Yeah, they're good ideas. We'll definitely come up with a good plan for that. Does anyone have anything else about the virtual meeting? All right.
I was impressed by how many people came though.
I know, we had a good turnout.
85 is
85 was
awesome.
good. All
I
right.
noticed we only had 56 by the time we went back, had our discussion, so
Yeah, I think some people dropped
Yeah,
out
I-
after the small group and they got late.
that's what I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there was about 88 at some point because I could see on the poll how many people were on. So I saw that number and then people kind of came in and out, but there were at least 88 people.
Yeah.
How long did it actually run? Because I had to leave like close to 9 and
I think like
we had to
15.
reconvene it.
Went like shortly over 9. I don't think it was that much
Oh,
longer.
really?
9:15.
Fast.
We're pretty efficient.
Just one other comment, to finish the process off. Once we do get all of our comments and have our discussion, I think it's very important to see how the discussion and recommendations and issues that get raised are reflected in the next draft. It's possible that there will be several drafts. So I I think we have to allow enough time, not rush, allow enough time for people to see how some people
But their
have
future
felt their
meetings as well.
comments are not.
Yes.
Yeah.
There
not
are meetings,
included.
this is,
That's all
yeah.
I'm saying.
Starting again, the next workshop, I'm in contact with a lot of people who are not computer savvy, they have no interest in doing it that way, they know where something is important, they should do something about. I have just been telling them that your big day is that Saturday where you can come physically and do things. I want these people to feel comfortable
Yes.
to do this, so, no, you have to be gentle with these people. These are people that are, they're under the rocks in the woodwork, hiding in the woods. These are not people who gravitate towards this kind of thing at all. And for even getting them out is going to be a challenge.
Right.
But there's a lot of people that are like that. And as long as it's going to be comfortable for people to like put your little red dots or whatever it is that makes it simple for someone, I think that's a beneficial thing. They're not going to give you a big, long articulated paragraph or sentence, and they're not going to.
Yeah, I think we'll do some other things too. We can have some other ways to make it interactive and more fun and less intimidating. So we have some other tricks up our sleeve to do that, so yeah.
Thank you.
May I just suggest too, given the rising COVID numbers, that we make sure we have masks available in case people feel, because there are a lot of people attending, they feel more comfortable if there was some safety acknowledgement.
Maybe we can.
Mask, hand sanitizer.
Yep, we can do that. Yeah. Well, and I think it's also important to remember that like when we're manning a table, we're there to hear from the public. We want to see what they have to say. So, you know, if they have questions, we answer them, but for the most part, it's really to get their feedback, you know, because, you know, everybody in this committee is a representative of the community at large, but there's more community than just us. So it's important to hear from everybody. And part of our job is to hear from everybody and to be open and to listen to them. So I think if we're all open and we're just listening, then it also makes people feel comfortable coming in and sharing their opinions, even if we don't agree with them. They, like, everyone still should be heard. So I think that helps to promote that welcoming atmosphere that makes people want to come in and participate and engage. So that's kind of our role as mediators in that situation. Just like with the virtual meeting, that was our job, was to listen and report back what people were saying. So it's the same thing here. And, you know, like Noah was saying, from each breakout group, we all took notes. And so some of our notes are more thorough than what was reported back because we had a short period of time to kind of abbreviate what was said and then report it. So, you know, I'm thinking that the written report that comes out of the meeting will probably be a little bit more thorough than just the verbal report that was given as someone scanned their 2 or 3 pages of notes.
By the way, is there a written report that will come out from the first virtual meeting?
Yes.
Oh, that's what you just
Still
said.
working on it, yeah.
Yeah, we have to compile everybody's notes.
Pardon?
I'm sorry. The only thing I will add on to John's point is we will get asked certain questions. So I think there should be just, at least at a high level, questions that we're comfortable answering, right? Pointing to, here's sort of the overall process, here's where you can get more information.
And
Things
we'll
like
have
that.
handouts that show
Yeah.
people where to get more
Great.
information, how to get involved, what to look
Yeah.
forward to in the future. And also, if there's a question you don't know the answer to, you can always say, hey, go talk to Noah, he knows the answer.
Yeah.
And you can.
Or we can
point
just take it
people in
down.
different directions.
If you have a laptop or a iPad, by all means, bring it. And you can have the document typed up. We can have paper, but so much easier to search if someone says B1, you know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things.
Right too.
Yeah. Oh,
I
sorry.
think during the Zoom, because time was already going ahead and we were getting close to 9 o'clock, I mean, just as a moderator myself, I felt a little pressured. So I had like all my pieces of paper with each participant and what they said, and I was trying to find the common threads and run through it quick. It was difficult. Like I felt like later when I could sit down and type it all, like who said what, I think it was a lot better. We felt pressured. It was the time, I don't know.
It was the
It's
time
hard to like find the common thread and then also add in what everybody said. But I personally tried the best I could to be accurate, but.
Wendy?
So at the session on the 23rd, thinking John's comment too about our fellow citizens, maybe just having like index cards where if they can't stay the whole time or they have a comment that they want to write down and they don't know how to post it, then they could do it there. At least there'd be kind of a collection of these similarly shaped pieces of paper.
Yeah.
That could be helpful.
Well, and we also have the boxes like we, on the table out there for the housing. So you could have like a box on each table, people can put the cards in the box that corresponds with the chapter, something like that. We can collect the information. So I'm sure Noah has methods of doing this that'll be pretty helpful. All right, so is everybody kind of comfortable with that? We'll send out an email for sign up and everything. All right.
Just one other further thing, how is this going to be advertised?
Oh, so good question. I'm gonna email all the HOAs like I have been doing, but I'm also gonna send out a mass mailing to everyone on the island. So everyone will get a postcard that'll explain what's going on, the dates, the times, the website, a QR code, and all the like future things to look forward to. Just so that we can make sure that we're really hitting as many people as possible, because I know the center doesn't have an HOA. There's no real good way to contact everybody at once because we don't have a notification system yet.
You will.
And not everyone's online, so, and not everyone reads the paper, and not everyone watches Channel 22. So,
Also the police.
and we're gonna use the sign, and we're gonna advertise it on the police sign when it tells you all the bulletins. So we're gonna have that out, and we're gonna do a mass postcard mailing to everybody, letting them know. I wanna make sure that as many people as possible know about it and feel comfortable coming. So essentially like a, hey, you're invited.
Just say, are we doing an ad in the paper?
Yeah, we'll do an ad too. All the things. We're gonna do all the things. We're gonna spam everybody. It's gonna be wonderful.
I really feel that in order, we had a comprehensive plan. There was actually one before the 1993 plan, Tom Jernick, done by consultants off island. They came here and gave us a bunch of hooey. And he took it physically and he threw it in a garbage can at the final meeting because it just was not accepted by people because no one had a buy-in to it.
Right.
So the more people we have a chance to buy into it, see it, feel like they got a part of it, feel like they were listened to, the better chance it's going to have of having legs for 10 years until we do another one.
Right.
Because the part that is the problem with this is you can make a wonderful plan, unless you have people who say they've got a piece of it, like, well, why haven't we done that yet? I was involved in that, or I had this point. We're going to lose this. It's just become another document that gets lost in history. So my 2 cents, sorry.
No, it's a good one. I like it, John. All right, so that's the plan for advertising for that and just kind of moving forward so everybody knows to look out for it. And we'll also do flyers around town, so they'll be everywhere. All right, I'm going to move. It's already, yeah. All right, so I'm going to go to the next agenda item. So the Green Expo and the Heights Property Owners Corporation meeting we had this last week. So BJ and I were the only ones who attended the Green Expo. We were there from about 9 to 4, and it was great. You're welcome. So yeah, we had some good feedback. We have some fun notes. People want a pool, so that's something. So we can kind of incorporate that somehow into the plan. But we got some good feedback and it was nice to talk to people. So we have some notes, not an extensive amount of notes. I wasn't super busy, but it was good. And then we had a meeting with the Heights Property Owners Corporation right before this meeting. Started at 4, it ended about 6. And so I have a lot of notes from that. So we're gonna write those up and we'll send them out just like we did with the rest of the notes that we have from our meetings. And I think Stella said she would actually email me some of her notes. But, you know, for the most part, they're kind of in line with what is in the plan because they were in favor of the design guidelines for the business districts to help maintain the character of the area.
For the Heights.
For the Heights, yeah. This is Heights specific conversation, yeah. No. So specifically for the Heights, so they were in favor of the idea of having design guidelines on top of the current zoning so that they could have a little bit more say in how things get redeveloped, if they get redeveloped. Water, they had some really good recommendations on, and what we were thinking actually is that it would be good to just put it right into the building application. So there are certain things that happen in the Heights that don't happen in the rest of the island. So, you know, the Heights district has public sewer and public water, things that the rest of the island doesn't have. And so what our current building applications kind of forget is that we need to get confirmation from the Heights that they have the capacity for the sewer and the water for whatever this new construction is. So when we talked to them about it, we're like, well, you know, that's a really good point, but it may not necessarily have to go in the comp plan in general, but that's something that we can put into the current building process right now. So Some of their recommendations were great, and we can build them into the plan somehow when it comes to revising the code and the, because we do have in there some notes that we should really update all of our applications and application processes. So they had some really good suggestions for that.
Just when I have the West Tech Water District would be another one that would
Exactly.
make sure it's very clear that they're signing into a water district.
Well, exactly. So, and, you know, we don't deal with Deering Harbor, but that would have been another area that would have been good for. So it's some really good recommendations like that can kind of span a few different things. And let's see, there was just so much. We'll put it in
Yeah.
writing and send it to you. I don't want to.
Curious.
Be really-
Historic district.
Yeah, they like that concept. They're very much in favor of the historic district.
And the HAC, reconstituting the HAC,
Yeah.
very important to them.
And so then there was also some discussion about how that would work, the Historical Conservation Advisory Committee, how that would work in conjunction with design guidelines. So trying to figure out how that would either cross over or if they would be independent. So that's something that would kind of have to be a discussion in the implementation phase, I think, of the plan. But some things to think about now while we're getting into it. But they were in favor of all of those things. I mean, that recommendation originally came from the Heights. So it was very good
I just wasn't
recommendation.
sure, you know, one person recommend, and then we have a group of people, like only one person, you know.
Right, yeah, no, yes, in general, the consensus was that they are in favor of it.
Good.
Okay, next.
Yeah, all right, so there's a lot, so I'll write it up and we'll send it out to you. So the plan moving forward, I don't have anything else scheduled with the HOAs. I'm waiting for more appointments. As I get them, I'll update the page on our SharePoint, and I'll let you guys know when the meetings are. And so really what we're going to do right now is we're going to wait for the chapters to come out. So we're on item number 6, plan moving forward. We'll wait for the chapters to come out. As they come out, we'll make sure everybody has copies, everyone can see them. We'll let you know how you can go on and make comments. And then, so then the next big thing is hopefully by the 15th, everything's out. The public has time to review it, or sooner, yeah, as they're ready. And then we're going to do the mailing. Bijay and I will coordinate that, letting everybody know that the 23rd is the open house day. We'll send out the sign-up sheet for everybody so they can pick a time and a chapter of their choosing. And then,
I didn't like break up into chapters, so if I'm the only voice against that, I don't think that's a particularly good idea, to break up into specific chapters.
No, I like it, because it encourages people to go around, and while you might say, I want to comment on others.
Go around to different.
oh, yeah.
They can go to every single.
Yeah, it's like a science fair with, you have like a million presentations and you hop from table to table.
Then if I'm on the table, I need to know my chapter really well, I don't have to know.
That's
Yeah.
actually too, that's what John was saying, like.
Right.
That's my
he
point.
can, like,
I agree with
brief
John.
himself, yeah.
Right.
I agree too.
Yeah, but the public can go to every table.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, yeah, so we'll have to sign up for everybody. You can pick your time, your place, your everything. And then we'll have the open house on the 23rd, and then we'll have our meeting on the 25th. And then, depending on how much time we think we need an additional to the 25th meeting, there's already a meeting on the books for October 13th. And then there's another one for October 20, let me see. October, I think it's the
23rd.
23rd. So we'll see how many of those meetings we need to go through the content, and also, you know, adjust accordingly. I mean, at this point, we don't know exactly how much time we're going to need to go over all the revisions for Noah and his team to do the revisions and recommendations that are made to them. So, you know, it's hard to set exact deadlines, but we're just going to keep moving through the process. So as things come up, we'll adjust accordingly. So I can't say that we're going to be done here, or we're going to, you know, but we're just going to keep moving forward.
I was just going to suggest that rather than make 2 or 3 meetings just a week or 2 apart, that suggests we're in a rush, and we tried to disassociate ourselves from that in the last meeting. So we want to really give everybody enough time to absorb the comments and absorb the chapters, and not start having a meeting every 2 weeks.
No, we're saying,
necessary.
it's the same schedule we have had
It's on our
for the
calendar.
last year.
Yeah.
This is the
Been on our-
schedule we set in
We
December.
met once a month until June, when there were scheduled 2 meetings, as far as my notes are.
So, one in
Why don't we wait and see
September.
how
Yeah, we'll see how it
big the
goes.
changes
Yeah.
and drafts are, and then judge it.
In May, we had 2 meetings. In
Lord.
April, we had
Really?
2 meetings. We had the 17th and the 24th. In March, we had only 1 meeting.
Right,
I think
because
some of that was
Right.
so that we had been doing it earlier.
Yeah, we've been doing 2 meetings a month.
I don't, well, we can check.
All right, so that is our plan moving forward. Does anyone have any?
I would like to thank you for
Yes.
sending that text out.
Oh, no.
Alert us to that, and while I realize it's extra work for you, it's really helpful for us to be kind of prodded, like, oh, new stuff has been posted, and if it isn't too burdensome, keep doing it in some form or fashion, I would appreciate it.
When the chapters come out, we'll send you a text. They're in your SharePoint, check your email, and then you'll be able to, you'll know. So we'll do that. All right. Any new business, or I'm going to go to the public. Does anyone in the audience have questions in the back?
Yes,
Come on up and introduce yourself.
Podium, please.
Because there's people on Zoom.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Natasha Stowe. I asked a question on Zoom last week, and it's a process question. I just want to repeat it because I'm still not clear. So on the internet right now, on the site, there are numerous comments from the public. Some of those I could actually see, get into the draft. That's great. But some of them also, are kind of not addressed. And I believe last week what you said is that you would be reviewing those and then there would be another column added where you would
Yes.
say, okay, this is actually now in section whatever.
Yes. So we're currently working on that, but we have so many comments. We don't want to put it out until all the comments we've gone through and we've made notes of where people can find a reference to that in the document. So we're kind of waiting until we have the chapter so we can be more specific in the references, but we will be putting that spreadsheet out that has all the comments we've received with the notes attached. So we'll put that out when the chapters come out too. So that'll all kind of come out at the same time. So it's complete because we just received some of these comments in the last 2 days. So we haven't been able to really review them and where they stand.
So does that mean though that some of those comments will not be incorporated in the draft that's coming out by September 15th?
Well, here's yes, definitely. And I'll give you one perfect example. We need a transportation study before we just do this comp plan. We're not going to do that. And it's been explained in many meetings why, and it'll be explained in the comments why the comp plan doesn't do studies. So it's not going to be incorporated in the plan, but what will be is the recommendation that a traffic study be done and what it should be looking at based on the data of what's been happening with traffic on Shelter
Right.
Road.
And the comments we've received. So we know like there are a lot of people who really want bike lanes.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily in the comp plan's purview or budget to conduct that traffic study themselves to see where the feasibility for bike lanes is. But it is in our purview to make the recommendation to the town board that this study should be done and this should be pursued. So that's where the recommendation will come in. Just because like the example BJ's using, because someone requests that we do a traffic study, it's not appropriate for the comprehensive plan to do that study themselves, but it is appropriate to recommend that the study be done. So that's how that comment will be incorporated.
Yeah, I think if that's explained and noted, I
Yeah.
think that goes a long way with the public comments. Now, you made the point, though, that there are a lot of people who are not comfortable posting, they don't have a computer. So will those type of comments that come out of the meeting on the 23rd, where people bring their index card or whatever it is, will those also be posted in some way and also explain how they're going to be? I think people just want to know that it's been read and
Absolutely.
and if it's not incorporated, why not? And you gave a great example of why not, and.
Yeah, we can include them in that chart.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to have all the comments in one location so that everyone can reference them instead of having them spread out all over the place. So,
I think also Noah was gonna just.
Well, I just
Yeah.
don't want to overpromise. I mean, just the way that the meeting will be, I've run countless public meetings. There's going to be boards all over with sticky notes with people will put in, notes on various things. And the sticky notes will say, I agree with this, I don't agree with this, I agree with this because of this. So there's going to be opinions on all different sides. There's, most issues, maybe some issues there will be consensus, but it's not as if we can digitize every single comment that was made and then respond to why or why not it wasn't included. I think it's, not to be dismissive, but it's not helpful as far as creating a document in an efficient way. It's kind of, it's just kind of taking us down the wrong path. I think what we need to do is encapsulate and summarize and synthesize what we heard into something that is a little bit more understandable, rather than have 300 different comments that are kind of not really understandable. We need to say, people seemed to support a bike lane, and there seemed to be a lot of support for this, and there were some ideas, there were new ideas, and we'll capture them. But the expectation that we are going to respond in the public meeting, and this is different than the written comments, to every single Post-it note is a little bit unrealistic. So I just want to be clear about that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'll make a comment about that because it came up in our last meeting too. And I don't have Jay here tonight to really refer to, but he's mentioned the concept of complete streets. I know it was mentioned in the presentation, but a lot of people don't understand that. And if I understand what Jay told me, it's like it's a state process. They go through and they analyzes traffic movements, parking and stuff like that. It also talks about how often you pave, how often you repair, at what levels. And so it's a complete streets idea that is something that's expensive to do, and that's why we haven't done it yet. But it's something that obviously the recommendation is we need that. So it's going to be a budget item.
And the explanation is.
Well, yeah,
Sorry,
I don't
go
want to
ahead.
get into the details, but you didn't quite, that's not quite correct. I don't know if I.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I don't want to kind of go back and forth, but complete streets is just a general idea that streets be designed for all users, ages, and abilities. It's more of a philosophy than a specific program. The state's policy for the state, they have a complete streets policy, which basically means that for any projects with state funding, they need to consider the possibility of incorporating street elements. Doesn't mean they have to. It just means that they should be considered in the planning and design as a possibility. So it really doesn't. It's important to recognize those things, and it really promotes complete streets. But it's not kind of a capital item in and of itself. It's just recognizing that improvements need to consider all users.
So just to close off on that, so there'll be a list of comments. It will be some sort of acknowledgement that they've been read and where they showed up or didn't show up. And then what happens? So in other words, after the 23rd, we've got these draft things, and then we've got also these comments that come on paper, and some of them are in agreement with things that have been written, and some of them might be in disagreement with things that are written. And so revisions when we talk here about plan moving forward, what I'm unclear about as a resident is what does that mean? Like, what happens with all those comments, and will there be a revision or not? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah.
I think if it's clear that we're either not on target, we will revise the document based on what we've heard. There are going to have to be some decisions that are made between, us and the task force and you. We kind of look to you to kind of make some of those, or the CPAC rather, to make some of those decisions. I hope that we are 95% of the way there, just judging by the fact that we didn't hear a lot of disagreement at the public meeting for a lot of the things that were proposed. So I'm hopeful that we're on task, and we can also incorporate new ideas that we hear. If we're off, and a lot of people think that we're off on certain targets, we want to make sure that we are reflective of that. We're flexible. As consultants, we don't bring anything to the table. We want to make sure that we are representative of the wider community. There also are conflicting opinions, so we need to kind of sift through that and make some decisions. Ultimately, it's the town board that's going to be the deciding party. I'm sure the town board members will be at that meeting, and they'll be the ones that decide what should or shouldn't be included. If we missed something, they'll let us know. If we included something that shouldn't be in there, they'll let us know. It's really becomes their document once we submit it.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you very much. May I just make a comment? As you well know by now, Noah, the current town board is, 3 people will be leaving and it is a lame duck. So
That doesn't
in
really
fact,
change.
the vote was pretty strong. So if they're important to making the final decisions on touchy items, it remains a question as whether we're really listening to the voice of the electors and we're listening to the voice of the residents, and whether in fact we want to let this go on a little longer till we have a new administration and more public input.
These are all political considerations that you need to decide with the town board. I'm explaining how a comprehensive plan gets adopted and who's responsible for the changes. It's the town board's document, period. And if it's this town board or the next town board, it's their document. They're the only ones that can adopt a comprehensive plan. So that's it.
Yes.
There's nothing, yeah.
That's right. Thank you.
All right. Jan, you have your hand up? You're on mute. Okay.
Okay, so I'm mute. Let me figure it out. Okay, so can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so basically my comments are, my suggestion to the consultants would be to come out with chapter 3 and chapter 11 first, okay? Because this is what everybody is waiting for. What zoning changes are you proposing? And then what action items are you proposing, okay? So don't spend your time again rehashing or writing vision or other general statements nobody cares about. Just get to the point, okay? What is the point of this comprehensive plan, okay? So that's my first comment. My second comment is, I would suggest to stop doing any more of virtual meetings where the audience is divided into several groups. And, we don't know what are general concerns of the public, and public is atomized into several different groups. And then the moderators don't necessarily repeat accurately what were the concerns in individual groups. For example, in my group, I said a lot of things. Very few of this was reported to the in a general meeting, okay? Perhaps there will be some written notes, but who's gonna read those notes? Not general public, okay? So I suggest that instead of having any more virtual meetings, that you have several public hearings organized by chapters, starting with the most important chapters. And if the town hall is not enough room to accommodate everybody, then move it to the school, move it to library, or whatever a larger room is. So then very quickly, you will emerge what are the concerns of the public and whether there is a consensus for this plan or there isn't, okay? Thirdly, I would suggest that you concentrate on this, on the public hearings, and really hearing for what the public wants or doesn't want, rather than going to some workshops, which suggest that you are already marketing what you're gonna deliver in mid-September, like assuming that this is done deal. Let's first hear from the public whether there's general buy-in for various elements of the plan, such as zoning or action items, okay? And so there should be several public hearings organized by topic. So let's have one public hearing on zoning, another one on action items, a third one on natural environment, fourth one on utilities and so forth. And then we'll quickly see whether there's general consensus in this town, whether there's a general buy-in for what you guys are proposing, okay? And my last comment is, I fully agree with what Lily said. that this should not be, adoption of the plan should not be left to the current town board, which, 3 members are leaving in December. That should be left to the new town board. And town board should reflect what the public wants, okay? So although the town board is the one charged with adopting the plan, that should be a reflection of what public wants and not just the town board. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim Nolan?
Okay, I'm off mute, I think. Okay.
Yes, you are.
So Noah Levine, I have a question for you. Have you received any of the letters written by the Shelter Island Association that represents 10 neighborhoods and hundreds of residents on the island? Because I've sent these to the task force, the town board, and CPAC, and I just wonder if you, as a consultant, are getting these. They really hit on some critical topics. If I do say so myself, the first one being October of 2021. And I'll just read the first paragraph. And again, this is an organization on Shelter Island that represents 10 neighborhoods. First priorities of Shelter Island residents identified in the comprehensive plan survey include water quality and open space protection. The town should prioritize lower density in the nearshore overlay, stricter enforcement of existing zoning and other ordinances, and avoid any zoning code changes that automatically allow increased building footprints and water use in coastal areas and other environmentally sensitive areas. Now I'm going to move right on to spot zoning, which is disfavored under New York state law, and which, as I brought up to you at the town board update on August 15th, sounded very much like what you as a consultant said, which is your zoning doesn't match your land use. Now, we've progressed a little farther along on that, but we're not there. We still haven't seen the language in the zoning chapter. When will it show up? This is of great concern. Meg talked about a meeting earlier with Shelter Island Heights Property Owners Corporation. I know they're very concerned about this. Meg didn't even mention it. All she talked about was a historic zone. Spot zoning, non-conforming uses is huge. We need to see the language. Back again to what Natasha Stowe said, which I heartily endorse. We have no idea whether public comments are being even received by the consultants or reviewed. I sent in extremely specific language about the nearshore overlay district. I have no idea if anyone on the task force or the committee or the consultants has seen it. It's incredibly important to Shelter Island. It is a huge part of the island, and on our zoning map, you will see that it covers a major part of the island. We've heard basically nothing on that in the comp plan. I will go on to talk about bays and harbors. Once again, only thing I have seen or discussed by the task force, the CPAC, or the consultants was contained in the update on August 15th and on your PowerPoint on the virtual meeting on the 24th. I see BJ walking from the room. I know she's seen this. In any event, I would just say the bays and harbors are pretty important too. And I think there should be some recognition in our comprehensive plan, a little more extensive than a PowerPoint. What is today decided about the importance of our harbors and tidal wetlands will dramatically affect the island. And I just cannot emphasize this enough. I don't want to be oppositional to the consultants. I want their help. I was hoping for a consultant that had had experience with comprehensive plans for islands because they are special. But I would be really happy to work with you. And I will once again send all the letters from a neighborhood association that represents hundreds of residents who look to this association to help them get their messages across. That's why it exists. Thank you.
Do you want me to respond to those?
Yeah, you can.
questions?
Yeah, I mean, we've sent all the letters that you've written, Kim, to NOAA and the consultants, and we've included them in the spreadsheet of comments that are online. So they have been accounted for.
Can I just also add, I mean, Kim wasn't in my group, but I just had my notes out and I noticed that another participant in the group had at least 4 to 5 major points, specific points that she just mentioned. Those were in my notes. Maybe not spoken by her, but spoken by someone who agreed with her.
Right.
Jan, who's on Zoom right now. So his 4 or 5 points reflected what she just said, and those went to the consultants.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, I would just say that the plan, from my understanding, is supportive of what you were saying. I don't think we're in contrast, I think we're in agreement with you as far as protecting the shoreline areas. Our plan does have a lot of recommendations, hopefully, to be protective of those areas and really prevent development. It is a very protective plan. I don't think you characterized the spot zoning. As I explained to Lily earlier, really what we're talking about is design. We're not talking about spot zoning. Spot zoning is something different. I really want to make sure that people don't spread misinformation about what it is that we're doing. Kim, I think that we are trying to do what it is that you want. I just hope you give us the benefit of the doubt. Read the documents. If there's something in there that you don't agree with, we can address it. But I just hope that people don't assume that we're trying to do something that we're not. I think it'll be important to read that document, and we're working as hard as we can to get it out to you as soon as possible. So that really is the goal.
Well, I thank you for that. And I'd just like to respond really quickly because I realize I'm taking maybe too much time. But I will tell you, I'm just going to read to everyone. Goals and objectives and challenges sections of Chapter 8, which was formerly the chapter on zoning. And what that specific language says that we introduced at the June 26 CPAC meeting, and we were told that if we presented language, then the task force would basically put it in there because nobody seemed to disagree. But basically, one of our action items was no code changes, and we wanted this in the comprehensive plan. No code changes should permit reduction in the perimeter of the nearshore overlay district or allow larger building sizes or dwellings that increase density. Given the increasing environmental risk in the NSOD, expansion of non-conforming uses in buildings should not be allowed, whether through an amendment to the town code or approval through a special permit or variance. So we gave very specific language, and we're led to believe that, that would actually become part of the comprehensive plan because of the huge importance of the nearshore overlay and the environmental risks that we are going to be facing. Thank you again for everyone's time and listening. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Kim. Pam?
Good evening, everyone. Actually, I'm just trying to clarify how this timeline is going to work. My understanding is that there will be a few of the chapters that will be finished by September 15th, and then we're going to do an outdoor, table to table forum for the public on the 23rd.
No.
No, all of the chapters are going to be done by the 15th. I'm trying to get them done sooner, as early as I can, to give the community as much time as possible.
Okay,
So,
so then may I just ask, I hear that you say you want to present them to the CPAC members in a PDF file that you can add comments to directly. Why would that not be the case for a PDF file for the public to do the same?
I don't
Seems
think
like
it would be
that
a,
where
I
you
don't
can
think that would,
combine both of them. You can combine both of them and evaluate how the public is viewing these
Yeah.
chapters as well as comparing it to how the CPAC is viewing these chapters.
I don't know. We have to talk about that. I'm worried that might not be a productive way to do this. We kind of need to talk about that a little bit internally. I don't think that having a document out there and have where people can see other people's comments, it might turn into a negative discourse, and I think that could be problematic. But we can certainly talk about it. What the best approach will be.
See, I'm not really sure how I see it could be a negative discourse among public opinion. I think that what's missing here is public participation. I think that what's also missing is this timeline that this document was supposed to be finished by July 1st, and now we're into August and almost September, and now it's September 15th. And no one has seen any of your draft production. All we know is that you have been looking at a dirty, rough draft since the end of June, and no one has seen anything from your work. And now we will wait till the 15th, and then the next opportunity for public comment will be September 23rd. Is that correct?
You'll still be able to comment on the website.
But I mean, but those comments that come in on the 23rd will be considered within a month by the committee and the task force, and we're looking into October, November. I mean, going by the timeline, and we know this has to go to the Suffolk County Planning Commission for them to approve it. So I just don't know where we're ending up. I am hoping that, in fact, yes, the full document will be available to the public and posted on the 15th, so that we'll have ample time to look at it for 1 week prior to meeting with you all individually in person. Because that's what I'm hearing. We'll have 1 week to review the entire document in order to have some kind of educated, consultation with the CPAC members at this public forum. And I don't see how that's really fair.
Right.
You folks have really canceled quite a few meetings on this comprehensive plan. And now, because you have an agenda to complete the timeline and get this done by December, I'm just trying to understand how this is all getting really good public input and our input matters to you. It just doesn't seem to make sense.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Jan? We only have a few minutes left because Petra has to leave by 8. You're muted, Jan.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry to inconvenience you since you have to leave at 8. But I just want to follow up on what Pam said, okay? And I also suggested that you guys eliminate all those virtual meetings which divides the public so the public cannot hear each other. And also those workshops, but go into public hearing. I would like to hear the answer from the consultant. What does he think about this?
We don't have any more virtual workshops planned. We have one in-person meeting, and then after that, then it would be submitted to the town board, and then there would be public hearings, from the town board. So that's what is in the schedule. So no more virtual meetings.
Okay, but only one public hearing. Is that what? Did I hear this correctly?
No.
One public workshop, and then it goes to the town board, and it's up to them to decide how many public hearings. How many. That really is up to them.
Okay, so like I said, the workshops is just marketing phase. Okay, you just throw something on a table on the 15th. And a week later, you go into marketing, have some workshop, okay? I really don't think this is appropriate at taking into account what public thinks.
All redundant.
All right, thank you, Jan. Is there anybody else? All right, I don't see any hands. Anybody? Going once, going twice. All right, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second that.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. Have a good evening.